Ladies and gentlemen,
wrestling has more than one royal family.
I am my kingdom! I am my kingdom!
Lately, we've been talking about on this show, more or less, about how the tag team division in All Elite Wrestling is the best part of that show so far, and it's going to go a long way to carrying them until they have their mid-card division and more established. In doing so, last week we talked about how the three of the top 5 tag teams in the world right now are part of that organization. And along with those teams, they also have Best Friends, they have the Jurassic Experience, they have Private Party, they have Angelico and Jack Evans. I mean, they have a stacked tag team division in AEW. And how could I leave out SCU? But let's go back a little bit over 8 years to the first ever Ring of Honor Best in the World. The main event of that show featured, well, let me take a step back. We're going back to that show because if you want to know what an embarrassment of riches in a tag team division looks like, you have to look at Ring of Honor in 2011. The main event of that show featured the second best match in 2011. The best match in Ring of Honor, second best match overall. And that match, the main event, was the American Wolves facing each other for the World Championship. Yes, they were now wrestling as single stars, but they were still best friends, and they still wrestled as a tag team as well. The semi-main event of that show featured, get this, the All Night Express of Kenny King and Rhett Titus, facing wrestling's greatest tag team of Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas, facing the Kings of Wrestling of Claudio Castagnoli and Chris Hero. And the fourth tag team in that match, just a little team called the Briscoes. So, if you're a fan of tag team wrestling, I highly suggest you pop on your Honor Club and watch any fucking show from 2011. You're bound to see a great tag team match with Hall of Fame tag teams in it. Welcome to Ring of Honor, also known as Kingdom of Honor. I am your host, Zadman Shane Sabuni, my good buddy Jeff.
You know, I'm a little bit hurt because you forgot probably one of the best tag teams in, or at least the one getting the biggest push in AEW, Dark Order.
I couldn't list every single tag team that was there, but you're right, I did forget about Dark Order.
You did. You listed all except for Dark Order.
Did I really?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Dark Order is the only one you didn't list.
Can you believe the tag team scene that Ring of Honor had in 2011 though?
No, that's just ridiculous.
Isn't it?
I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous that they had a tag like that. And then, I mean, wasn't that the same year the Young Bucks showed up?
Yes, they showed up just after that show. Also, Steve Corino and Jimmy Jacobs were together. So, yeah.
And I'm trying to think,
that was also when Bravado would show up later on in the year as well. So, I mean, go ahead.
Wasn't that also when a very young Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole were a tag team too?
I believe they were in a match in Final Battle that year. Yeah.
I think they were both like rookies or something in Ring of Honor, and I know they were a tag team for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's just ridiculous the amount of tag teams that have come through Ring of Honor, especially all at that time, and even now. If you look at, yeah, granted the Bucks and SCU left, but they still have a fairly decent tag team division with the Briscoes, of course, at the top, and then you've got the Bouncers who are making waves. Vinny and TK Orion are making a very good tag team. And what's that other one? Or is it not South Coast Connection? The ACH or not
Coast to
ACH, Coast to Coast. Yeah, I mean, I like them a lot too. I just can never remember their damn name because I get them confused with other people that I like more.
Yeah, they really do have a strong division there as well. What was I going to say?
And the sad,
but you know the thing is though, I think in 2011, when I list those 5 teams off, that probably Ring of Honor had the top 5 tag teams, at least in North America, if not the world.
at that time, yeah, because that was before the Usos really started their run. They didn't really start to become that great tag team until 13 or 14.
Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody can point out something to me in 2011 that I'm missing in the tag team scene, but you know, Edge and Christian weren't together anymore. Edge had just retired, in fact.
The Hardys were. They were
the Hardys
both.
were separated in 2011. So I mean, I really don't think there was much out there to rival what this division was in Ring of Honor.
You know, we were talking about this last week, and after we talked about it, I started thinking a lot more about it. And I think the top 5 are pretty much set in stone, and they're not changing. That's going to be for both you and I. I think the harder thing would be after that top 5. Coming up with some like honorable mentions and things like that. Because, I mean, when I sit back and I look at the tag teams and what they've done and who are really the best in the world right now, there really is only 5. You can point to the Usos, but I haven't seen them enough to really make that claim. But I know that they're still putting on great matches. I know Xavier Woods, when he teams with Kofi Kingston, put on great matches. But the Revival has pretty much dried up. They've destroyed the Viking Experience or War Raiders.
You know, when we talk about tag team wrestling, or actually any wrestling in general, I really don't want to put WWE in the discussion because I don't watch it enough to judge it. And I really am talking about, you know, teams that are allowed to flourish, and we know that often when a blue moon comes around, WWE will shine a little bit of a light on the tag team division. We also know it never lasts, and these teams are never going to get a chance to really spread their wings the way they should be able to.
And that is true. That is definitely true. But I mean, I don't know. Your top 5 and my top 5 are probably going to be identical. Out of those AEW 3, it's really the Briscoes and Red Dragon, and that's pretty much it.
Well, see, last week you were bound and determined to put Aussie Open in there.
Well, that's why I said I had a week to think about it, and I actually sit down and watch some of their matches, and I just think Red Dragon gels so much better together. I think Aussie Open has a chance to be there soon, but it's going to be they got some work to do. I also think Yo and Show, if they can stay together, can be there at some point too.
I think Ryan Evans, our kind of super listener, pointed out to us a couple of teams that probably belong in the discussion, but they're not going to make the top 5 for me.
No, I mean the top 5 are pretty much set for both
and
of us.
And that's Mustache Mountain and the Grizzled Young Veterans.
Yeah.
I like the Grizzled Young Veterans a lot, but I've only seen them in 2 matches, and they've only been together at least on a prominent level for just under a year now. So I don't think that they could really qualify for this discussion, in my opinion. As far as us having the same top 5, that's probably true. I think it's more where we would rank them that might differ.
I don't know, man. I really don't, because I think we're pretty much in agreement. I mean, if you want to, how do you want to do it? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or just?
Sure. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is Red Dragon.
Okay, and my number 5 is the Lucha Bros.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because as I've said before on this show, so many times, I don't think they should be a tag team at all. You know, I mean,
No, I don't think
feel
they
I
should
feel
either.
like they're better as singles, especially when Pentagon is actually being Pentagon,
Yeah.
and I really, and I think that they are, unless they're working with a team that really knows how to work and put together a story, that they're really just spot fit artists. And
Yeah,
and when
and
they're a tag team, and that just doesn't appeal to me. Now, are they obvious draws? Of course, but I do think that they're overrated as a tag team. And it's, as witnessed by the complete car wreck we saw between them and uh, LAX earlier this year.
yeah, that's true. They did have a couple of stinkers in MLW too
Right.
against the Hart Foundation.
Right, and the Hart Foundation had a fantastic match against a team that as far as I know, had never even teamed before in MJF and Richard Halliday. So, so as far as I'm concerned, while they deserve to be in the top five, they're not. They're on the end of the top five for me.
See, and the funny part is they're my number 4 for a lot of the same reasoning. I still like them a little bit more than Red Dragon, because Red Dragon is just, they're so just old school and technically sound, and a lot like what we were seeing out of the Revival a few years ago. Granted, they've been doing it a lot longer, but the flashiness of Phoenix and Pentagon when they're trying to one up each other has me just, as far as an entertainment value goes, just a step ahead of them.
See, and to me, that gritty style of Red Dragon just is music to my soul. So,
Yeah.
so what's your number 4 then?
The Lucha Brothers.
All right, you said that. I'm sorry. Okay, so and my number 4 is LAX. I think they're absolutely a sensational team, and they definitely have the chance to be, up there in annals as one of the greatest teams of all time. I love watching them, but they don't bring to me the same kind of fire that my top 3 teams do.
And they are just right at my number 3 spot. I think that they are more gelled and cohesive and put on a grittier style, and are much better storytellers than the Lucha Brothers. And they still have a little bit of flash to them, which has me having them ahead of Red Dragon. So the LAX is my number 3, or what are they now?
PNP.
EB. Oh,
Pride.
PNP.
Pride and Powerful.
I wish they'd go back to EYBFO.
Yeah, I do too. But it may not be as marketable for their new promotion. I really
Right.
don't know.
Probably not, but it would still be fun.
I don't think PNP is very marketable either, though. But I guess
Well,
we'll see.
you were coming up with the taglines PNP on TNT and all that crap.
Yeah,
When we talked about it last week.
I know. It doesn't mean I like it. I understand why they would be able to come out with something for it, but I just don't think it's something that's ever going to roll off the tongue for me.
No,
I
I
guess,
agree.
I guess we'll see how that goes down the line. But to me, I mean, they should have come up with something better.
Well, I mean, I get where they're coming from too, because they, Pride and Powerful. They have a lot of pride in their heritage, which is where the whole LAX thing came from. And even before LAX, they were high on the Puerto Rican flag and everything.
I know. It's
So,
still.
It's still dumb. I'm not going to disagree, but they're my number 3 team, and simply just because I don't think they've ever really reached the level of the top 2. And that's not really their fault. They've been, honestly, up until recently, the Impact Tag Team division has not been very good. They had to bring back Homicide and Hernandez to have a legitimate feud, because there's just nobody else anymore after, the Wolves kind of went their separate ways, and there was really nobody else.
Yeah.
Honestly, they were throwing together tag teams just to challenge them.
I wonder if Davey will ever come back to wrestling, because to me, the night that he won the world championship from Eddie Edwards, it meant that the top 3 wrestlers in the world held the top 3 world championships in North America. Because at that time, after Davey won the championship, CM Punk was the WWE World Champion, AJ Styles was the Impact World Champion, and Davey Richards was the ROH World Champion. And I was kind of like in technical wrestler heaven, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that.
And he left to pursue a degree and stuff. So I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I don't either. He might end up being like Sean Stasiak was. He just found a new calling.
Right.
Because Stasiak, isn't he like a doctor or something now? A massage therapist? I don't remember what.
Sean Stasiak.
I thought he was doing. Yeah, I thought he was doing something.
I have no idea.
I know Ted DiBiase Jr. went on to be like a market analyst and shit like that. Oh, he's a motivational speaker. He's a chiropractor and a motivational speaker. That's what he went on to be. So I knew he went back to school and got a medical degree. It was just in chiropractic.
So Meat is a chiropractor?
Meat is a chiropractor, yes.
Wow. That sure is something.
Right. And DiBiase Jr. is just listed as a American businessman and actor.
Who is? Stasiak?
DiBiase Jr.
Oh, DiBiase Jr. Ah.
Yeah. They don't have any of his post wrestling what he's doing now listed.
Well, I hope he's happy with whatever he's doing now. I mean, he didn't have the passion to be a pro wrestler despite people seeing promise in him. So I hope he's happy with whatever he's doing.
I think a lot of it was because he, unlike Cody, was never going to live up to his father. He was never going to be better at being the heel than Cody was.
Well, I honestly think, well, and the funny thing is that Cody wanted to be an actor. You know, he never really wanted to be a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
It was kind of like in the back of his mind to be a pro wrestler after, you know, if he didn't make it out. You know, make it as an actor, and that's what it ended up happening. So,
right.
Whereas DiBiase, I think, kind of felt like he was grown into the business. He just never really had the same passion that Cody does.
So he is he started his own nonprofit organization called the Ted DiBiase Foundation, which gives money to life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. And then he also is a leader for the Heart of David Ministry.
Ted DiBiase Jr. is a preacher, just like his dad's a preacher?
Yep. And then he took up an executive position at collegeGarageSale.com, a college textbook e-commerce website. He's now vice president of business development for One Life. So he's turned into a businessman.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't remember what I was going to say, but yeah, that is certainly interesting. That, you know, I guess you know he was a second generation wrestler, and now he's a second generation preacher.
Yeah. And second generation businessman, because isn't like Ted DiBiase Jr. like legit a millionaire? Like before he became a wrestler?
No.
I thought he was.
No, that was just a story, dude.
No, I could have swore because he. Maybe I bought into the story, but I could have swore there was some other stuff to it.
No, he wasn't really the $1 Million Man. And actually, that's what I was going to say. I was going to make a joke about him using the $1 Million Man fortune to, you know, to start that charity. But no, the $1 Million Man was never really rich.
Okay, well, he is. DiBiase was a second generation wrestler.
Oh,
I
right, Mike
guess
DiBiase. That's right.
no, Mike DiBiase was his adopted father, or he was his adopted son. His actual real life mother, Helen Nevins, was a wrestler.
Oh,
Mike DiBiase was just the guy that brought him into the business and was an adoptive father to him.
that is really interesting.
So he was not technically that same generation, but Iron Mike DiBiase did raise him.
Okay.
He dropped out of college to begin a career in professional wrestling. So yeah, he had no money at all.
There you go. Anyway, so let's get back to our list here, I guess.
We tend to do that, and anybody that listens to our Patreon show this last week, we got a little sidetracked a couple of times in both episodes.
Shocking.
ADD at its best.
So, even though for my personal wrestling tastes, they would be number 1, I'm going to put Red Dragon as number 3. I love their gritty style. I love their ability in the ring. The way they can gel with any other tag team in the world. But I can't say that they're the draws that the top 2 for me are. And so therefore, they're going to stick to at number 3 on my list. Although if I were rating them just by my own personal enjoyment watching, they'd be number 1.
Well, that's what you were supposed to do.
Then I guess the Young Bucks are number 3.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, and the Young Bucks are, in my opinion, and I've said this many times, the greatest tag team of all time. But that doesn't mean that they're my favorite tag team of all time. And right now they slot comfortably into the number 3 spot for me, surprisingly ahead of a team that for years I thought was overrated as a tag team.
After we do this, we might as well take a few minutes and just talk about our favorite tag teams of all time too. But before we do that, the way that I'm doing it is I'm looking at like who entertains me more, and that's why even though Red Dragon is probably the best technical wrestlers on this list, followed by maybe LAX, they're still not they've never been that. I love watching them. I love their matches, but they've never been that, okay, I'm going to watch this card just because they're on it.
Sure.
Type of thing. So they've never been my favorite of any card I've seen them on. Even when I first started watching them in 13 and 14, their Wrestle Kingdom match where it was them, Roppongi Vice, Bucks, and who was the other team? Seidel and...
yeah, I was going to say it's... Was it Kushida and somebody, or was it?
No, it was Matt Seidel and somebody.
But it wasn't Matt Seidel and Kushida, right?
I don't believe so.
No, it was 2 guys that could do the. Was it Seidel and ACH? It was 2. I know it was 2 guys that could do. That could do the shooting star press.
I thought it might have been Seidel and Ricochet, to be honest with you.
I think you're right. I think it is Seidel and Ricochet.
It was Wrestle Kingdom 10, right?
Yeah, I think so.
If I could spell wrestle. Might as well pull up the card and see what it says. Because this will tell us. Still, 2 of my favorite all-time matches are on that show. All right, so we had Bucks with Cody Hall. Jesus, whatever happened to him? Red Dragon, Matt Seidel and Ricochet, and Roppongi Vice.
Okay.
And I mean, that's when the first time I really saw Red Dragon. Really, that was the first time I saw Ricochet, and I'd seen the Young Bucks before because I followed them when they were Generation Me and in TNA. But that was just a phenomenal tag team match, and probably one of the reasons I started really getting into tag team matches again. Because there for a while, I didn't watch anything except WWE, and with their tag team crap, you never really got it after the 80s.
Right. Yeah, and the Young Bucks for me, I like them a lot, but they also sometimes have spots in there that can be very repetitive, and so I kind of get to the point where there's times, like especially watching them in Ring of Honor New Japan, I would feel like I've seen one Young Bucks match, I've seen them all.
Yeah, it wasn't until Wrestle Kingdom 13 when they had that ridiculously great match with Yo and Show when I really felt like they had finally turned the curve. I see where you're coming from. I mean, they're incredibly entertaining, and when they do their super kick party right, it clicks. But they have had some matches where I've seen it way more than I want to see it. You know, okay, enough, we get it. So, and that's why they're my number 2. Is because as great as they are, and as much as they entertain me, and as much as I love watching them, you're right. I do get those times where it's like, okay, that's one too many super kicks. I will say this: they are getting better. They're a lot better than they were 5 years ago. But as far as my number 1 team goes, my number 1 team was doing what the Bucks have been doing for the last 4 years, their entire career.
And so it sounds like your number 1 team is probably my number 2 team, which is
Briscoes.
J. Mark Briscoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I love those guys. You know, there was a time when I watched their matches and I was like, okay, so they're not really tag team matches because 5 minutes in,
It's a brawl.
It's a brawl where they're going 2 against 2 the entire time. And I think as they matured over time, you know, as they separated from each other, as Jay had world title success and Mark was in the hunt for the mid card championships there, that they seem to have actually found themselves to being a better tag team now after years away from each other. I really enjoy their psychology in every match they put together in the last, I don't know, 18 months. So
Oh God, longer than that. It's
maybe.
been longer than that.
Maybe, but I'm saying for my personal taste.
I haven't been disappointed in a Briscoe match in probably 4 years, and that's no joke. It's been that long since I've been disappointed in one of their matches. And when you go back and you watch their matches, even from that time that you're talking about, when it just kind of turned into a brawl, there was still some psychology in their brawling, which you don't see a lot. And even now, when they had those wars with God, they still had psychology throughout the entire match, which is something really rare to see in a hardcore match.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a fair point. It's just that I know that for a time there, you know, when I would hear the Briscoes from the match, I would want to turn the channel or just say ugh, just because I knew what I was going to get. I knew it wasn't going to be an actual tag team match, and it was just going to be 2-on-2 with no real reason for it, and the referee just letting anything go. And that more than anything is like if you're going to have rules, have rules. If it's a 2-on-2 tag team match and there's no rules like in ECW, I get it. In Ring of Honor, where it's supposed to be about honor and about the wrestling, that was always a hard sell for me.
Well, and see, I get it too. It's like I understand where you're coming from because I didn't really start watching the Briscoes until like 2014. Until 2014 is when I started watching the Briscoes. So I had to go back and watch some of their matches. So I might have a different perspective on it because I'm watching them in hindsight.
Right, where I was watching them, basically I shouldn't say all the way through, but I would watch them here and there from like at least 2005, to present.
Right.
So, yeah, and that's why I feel like those two guys being separated from each other, because Jay was in the world title picture and Mark was wrestling mostly in the mid card, I feel like those guys wrestling singles matches gained them more psychology into all kinds of wrestling, not just singles performances.
Yeah, and that's probably true. I have a feeling that one of us is going to dump here pretty quick because I'm getting a lot of beeping on the line.
Yeah, I'm hearing you click a bit.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be me or you, but I think it's going to happen here at some point.
Well, why don't we take a quick break and we will restart the call.
Yeah, that works.
Now it just stopped. I don't hear that clicking anymore.
Yeah, I don't either. But well, I guess if it does happen, we'll take a quick break and restart the call.
All right.
Well,
So,
until
so
then,
So clearly, my number one team then is Red Dragon, who like I said, originally had my number three because I thought we were doing it differently. But yeah, I mean, I love their grittiness. I love their realism. I love the way they can work with anybody of any size. I think I like them even better in NXT than I like them as indie stars or Ring of Honor stars because I think that, especially Kyle O'Reilly, has gotten so much better with his charisma, his facial expressions, and even his submission hybrid style than he was for the last, at least even the last couple of years when he was in Ring of Honor. So
right.
I mean, Red Dragon to me is really at the top of the tag team game right now. If you had all things being equal, if I had to choose between a Red Dragon match or any of the other 4 teams we're talking about having a match at the same time, I would choose Red Dragon.
And I guess that makes sense now. The way I was looking at it was not so much right now, but I wanted active teams that I've been watching for a while. Mm-hmm. And back in the early time when they were in Ring of Honor, I was not impressed with them. They were fun, but I was not impressed.
See, and I was, because I mean, I can't think of the name of their finisher right now, but when I saw that, I was like, man, that's something I'd like to see, like the Revival, has as their finisher, rather instead of the Shatter Machine, and
right,
and now they're doing it actually in the same organization that the Revival was in.
Right. So. That makes sense.
All right, so you want to talk about all-time favorite tag teams? All-time, so hard for me. For a long time I thought the Hart Foundation were up there as my favorite tag team ever, but a lot of that was just because of Bret Hart.
Right.
I mean, and they were there, in a time when WWE had. Talking about embarrassment of riches of tag teams, they had the Killer Bees, they had the Rougeau Brothers, they had Demolition,
Bulldogs,
Strike Force,
Can-Am Connection.
Yeah, the Brainbusters were there for a short time.
Yep.
Trying to think who else. Power and Glory, and before that, Powers and Roma. Yeah, I mean, just a lot of strong tag teams there, but the Hearts were always super fun to watch.
Yep.
As things progressed, though, I mean, in a time when tag team wrestling once again took center stage in WWE in 2001, I think at that time, if you'd asked me, I would have said the Hardy Boys were my favorite of that era. But when I look back over time and everything that they've done in the business and how I enjoyed them everywhere they've ever gone and how I love them in ECW, I think the Dudley Boys are up there for me too. I mean, I just loved the Dudleys in that era. And I love everything the Hardys have done. I loved Anderson and Blanchard, especially in WCW.
Yep.
And of course, right now, how can you go wrong with any of the teams that we've mentioned?
Well, and that's where I was kind of going with this. We can't rank these. We can't, because they're all, to me, number one tag teams. It's hard for me to say this one's better than the other one, but like you mentioned at the Hart Foundation, Hardy Boys are up there, of course. Dudleys, of course, are up there. But ENC is probably one of my favorites, especially after they left the Brood. And if I was forced at gunpoint to pick a favorite tag team of all time, it would be ENC. I think what they did after they left the Brood in '99 and went off on their own with the 5-second poses and all that stuff, I don't think anyone will ever recreate what they were able to do. And then you've also got, I really love the way that Nash and Hall as the outsiders gelled in WCW. Minnesota Wrecking Crew is one of my all-time favorites. All-time favorites with Ole and Arn. And then, of course, Blanchard and Arn Anderson as well, not only in WCW, but their run in WWE or WWF as the Brainbusters, I thought was amazing. And even if you look at, some of the other ones, I can't look past the original LAX. That was just an amazing tag team that should have gotten a lot more than they did.
Yeah, it's hard for me to think back to WCW to a great tag team. Well, no, actually, TNA. I should take this back because TNA, when TNA first started out, and then into their first year or two of existence, I was absolutely in love with America's Most Wanted.
Yep.
They were, to me, a fantastic tag team, and I know that, since then Jim Storm probably had more success with Beer Money, and then of course there was the Dirty Heels with Bobby Roode and Austin Aries. But I mean, to me, I'm always going to look more fondly on America's Most Wanted than I do on Beer Money.
Well, and you can't look past Triple X either.
Good point. Yeah, they were awesome.
And
those two teams together had the match of the year, in my opinion, in 2004 in that steel cage.
Oh yeah, yep. I mean, Triple X. That was Elix Skipper, Christopher Daniels, and who was the other one? Was it Low Key?
It was Low Key. Yeah.
And that was one of the few times I actually liked Low Key. So it was an interesting thing. But I thought Daniels and Skipper together were amazing, and those guys. If I were to ever pick a tag team feud of all time, it would be Triple X versus America's Most Wanted. That first 4 or 5 seasons of TNA, I don't think there was better wrestling in that than those two guys or those two teams.
Yeah, I agree. And see, another TNA team I really enjoyed was Cash and Dallas.
Yeah. Another one we can't look past, London and Kendrick.
Oh yeah.
What they were able to do on SmackDown back in the early 2000s. Some of their matches were amazing as well.
Yeah, and of course we should not overlook the SmackDown 6 either, because they really started that SmackDown tag team division. Those Guerreros, Benoit and Angle, and Edge and Mysterio.
Yep. Yeah, so many great tag teams throughout the year, and when WWE does it right, they do hit pretty good on tag teams. The problem is they can't maintain it. You might get decent tag team wrestling for a year or two, and then it's gone. That's why I'm glad people like AEW and it seems like tag team wrestling's kind of going away a little bit in NJPW. There's really not a whole lot of tag teams over there anymore that I really want to see. Mm-hmm. Which is probably the reason why GOD is always on top now. Because the juniors, they should just get rid of. Yo and Show I like a lot. If this Osprey Eagles thing continues, I know I'm going to like that a lot too, because they're great together. But in the heavyweights, who the hell do they have as tag teams? KES is gone because Davey Boy moved to MLW. They lost Best Friends and Bucks.
I've said for years, and I still believe that they should put Ishii and Goto together as a tag team.
Yeah, that would be sickening.
Another, you talked about tag team feuds of all time. I think we'd be remiss if we don't mention the incredible NXT tag team feud between not only the Revival and American Alpha, but also the Revival and Team DIY.
Yeah, and it's hard for me now because the Revival forever were my favorite tag team. Easily my favorite tag team, and were quickly becoming my favorite tag team of all time. And then, they moved to the main roster and this all happens. But you're right. I mean, they had back-to-back probably feuds of the year with American Alpha and DIY. And they never put on a bad match, no matter who they were against. And other promising tag teams, Street Profits, of course. And I really like the Unwanted Sons.
Unwanted Son. Who is that?
Or not Unwanted Sons. What the Forgotten Sons?
Okay.
Jackson Riker and Wesley Blake, and I can't remember the other guy's name. Steve Cutler, I think. When Cutler and Blake are the tag team, I think they put on good shows too.
I haven't seen them enough to really judge, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that is hard to do it when you don't see them a whole lot. But they're another team that I think could be, if done right, a really, really great tag team.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's my list, and it's hard to pick a favorite tag team of all time because there's, who we didn't mention at all, and it was actually in there the same time as the Hart Foundation. When I was listening off the great tag teams, the British Bulldogs.
No, I threw them out there.
Oh, did you? Okay, I must have missed that.
Yeah, I said the Bulldogs, Strike Force, and some other one like was it Pretty Paul Roma and Rick Martel, the Models or whatever they were.
No, there was Roma and Jim Powers.
Right, but I thought, who was Martel in with when he turned on to become the Model?
He turned on Tito Santana in Strike Force, and before that he was with Tom Zink in Anthem Connection.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was Tom Zink he turned on for some reason. I thought Strike Force came before Can-Am Connection.
No, Can-Am Connection was wrestled Bob Orton and somebody at WrestleMania 3, and Strike Force broke up at WrestleMania 5.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, you're right. So yeah, I mean, there's just a ton of great tag teams throughout history, and I'm so glad to see at least AEW bringing it back, and it kind of seems like Impact is trying. They just don't, unfortunately, have the talent outside of the Rascals and the North. There's still not that tag team talent that there should be. Well,
there's also, they can always put LVE together for a few tag team matches. They've got the what's that Indian tag team they have there? I can't think of them right. I can't think of them at the moment. They have other options there, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, and losing LAX and losing Lucha Bros hurt them quite a bit.
Right.
But here's the thing with Impact: there may be other opportunities right down the road for them.
You think?
Because in case you haven't heard, folks, Impact's parent company, Anthem, who is a $1 billion company, which means we now have 4 $1 billion companies in the pro wrestling business right now. If you count the Khans in AEW, you count the WWE, and then you count Sinclair owning Ring of Honor, and Anthem purchased the majority share of Access TV this week. And it was announced that Impact will be moving their show to Access TV after Bound for Glory on October 20th. Now, will they still be on Friday nights and be competing with SmackDown? That seems like a pretty bad idea. But I do think that Access TV could become a strong destination for pro wrestling. You've got NJPW is already on there. Women of Wrestling, WOW, is already on there and currently filming its second season with Impact's own Tessa Blanchard as their world champion. And then you've got another possibility out there of Ring of Honor being purchased by Anthem as well. There's rumors out there they're looking to purchase them. And then if you look at the fact that Impact already has contracts with several indie promotions to air on their Impact Plus streaming service, there's really nothing to stop them from expanding to include some of those on Access TV either.
Well, Don Callis pretty much shot down the whole rumor of Ring of Honor.
Did he?
Yeah, on the Chris Jericho podcast. I listened to it on the way home.
He didn't really shoot it down. He just said before we were rumored to be closing, and now we're rumored to be purchasing Ring of Honor. He did. So
Right.
yeah, I mean the
So-
connotation he put it in, but that could also just be smokescreen.
Yeah, I don't know. The more and more I think about it, why would Sinclair sell them? You know, if they now that they own Fox Sports, they've got a national platform. They can put it on a national platform and get the exposure they need, and then we can have 4 wrestling promotions based in the U.S. and Canada that are now national TV product. And then you throw NJPW into that mix as well. 5 wrestling promotions as national, having national broadcast. That's just astonishing to be at that point.
Why? Okay, so your question is why would Sinclair sell them to Impact? And I would say because of money. And yes, they could put them on to their sports channels that they just recently purchased, but have they yet? Has there been any announcement that they're going to do that yet?
Well, we've already determined that they're horrible at marketing. So I don't really know what their next step should be. I mean, I would personally hire somebody to handle the marketing, but that's just me.
And then you also have to look at the fact that Ring of Honor is losing ground attendance-wise by quite a bit since last year.
Right.
And I would assume by rates on their pay-per-views as well because of that. And you know, it may be the best time that Sinclair has to sell them, and it kind of solves the problem that Impact has been having too. As we said before on this show, Impact is an extremely well-booked wrestling television product. The problem is they keep running out of guys to use. You know, the roster is limited, and that's why they have to keep bringing in old ECW guys. If you're able to purchase Ring of Honor, or at least their talent, all of a sudden you've got a new well to spring from.
Well, yeah, and I mean they've got a national platform, and a national platform that's not going to go away. Like at any time, USA could decide that WWE isn't drawing anymore, so we're going to cancel them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the same thing with with Axis and NJPW or TNT and AEW at any time, but this is a permanent home for them. They're not going to be booted off of a national program because their parent company owns the damn channel. And, another thing that Mark Cuban is a huge wrestling fan. And he's got some interest in it because he's still a minority holder in Access TV. So he just sold his majority shares, but he's still a minority owner. So with all of his arena accessibility and everything, they are in a great spot to get national attention in a hurry and draw in some of these free agents that were on their way to AEW.
That's a fair point. The interesting thing is that New Japan Pro Wrestling obviously now has a relationship with Access TV. They have a relationship with Don Callis, who's one of the presidents of wrestling operations for Impact. So even though they have a strategic alliance currently with Ring of Honor, New Japan may start sending some of their talent to Impact instead. It would help their show on the channel. It would help Impact out. And Ring of Honor, like I said, has not been drawing very well. If you look at even the latest Global Wars, it has always been New Japan and Ring of Honor. This time around, there was New Japan people on that event, on those events. It may be that their relationship is starting to fracture. And while there definitely was hurt feelings with the way certain guys were used in TNA in the past, Impact now has a new regime, and I think Callis could have gone a long way to, or could go a long way to salving those wounds. With the way they used Tanahashi, the way they used Okada, and kind of bring it back to where those organizations can work together again. Yeah. Of course, buying Ring of Honor kind of jumpstarts that thing, because then they will also then inherit the working relationship.
Yeah, I mean that's true.
The other thing is that we've been hearing for about a month now that the NWA is filming a television show in the Atlanta area, but we have not heard of where they're going to be airing that show on. I think Access is a great place for them to go now.
Yeah, and I mean I would love to see a lot of, like you said before, that they already claim to be a destination for pro wrestling. You know, I mean, over the last couple of years, and granted, you know, nobody knows what's ever going to happen with Lucha Underground. I mean, that wasn't owned by Cuban. He just gave them a spot. But they've always kind of been a destination for pro wrestling with WOW and with NJPW and Lucha Underground. Now they've got WOW, NJPW, Impact, and everybody that Impact has a working relationship with. All these indie promotions they can throw on there. Why not just make it a destination for pro wrestling?
Right. I mean, I don't have cable anymore, but when I did, I would kind of put that on to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling on there, and mostly it was like rock concerts and things like that. So I mean, it's not it's not like they have a huge amount of original programming on there.
Well, Cuban always listed it as a channel for men. It would always show like classic action movies, and wrestling and concerts, rock concerts and things like that. So they were always kind of gearing towards that demo anyway. Why not throw these indie promotions on there? Give them something to do instead of sending infomercials. I can't imagine they're making a whole ton of money off of the off of the infomercials.
Right. I totally agree with that.
Throw on a show that somebody might catch some interest in because they're up, still up, can't sleep at 2 a.m, so they flip on Access TV. Hey, what's this HOG about? Then they start to like it and realize, oh my God, it's only up at 2 a.m. Well, maybe I'll DVR it.
Exactly.
They've got so much opportunity to bring in a lot of eyes to different products, which in turn helps out everybody.
That's kind of how it is, with this, the channel that we get around here. Like if you have DirecTV or Dish, there's a station, I can't remember the name of the station, but like I was watching it, and I was watching some of the World Series of Poker, not World Series of Poker, the World of Poker Tour episodes, and then it said, coming up at like 12:05 tonight is Ring of Honor. So I mean, it's kind of the same strategy Sinclair has been using as well.
Right. I really wish that Sinclair would take advantage of their national damn platform and get some people to come in. I mean, they've got more money than the other two companies, or than Tony Khan and Vince McMahon combined. They're like one of the biggest companies in the world. Why not put it out there, put it on a national platform, draw in these people? You just threw money at Joe Hendry. I can guarantee if you're on a national platform, you open the door to a whole lot more than just somebody like Joe Hendry. It's why not go out there and do that?
Well, I have the feeling that Sinclair might be a lot like, like Turner was with WCW, where it's just kind of a thing that they have, not a thing they really care very much about.
Or like Dixie was with TNA.
Well, I think Dixie actually was a wrestling fan, though. I'm not sure Sinclair actually cares that they have a wrestling company.
Turner was a huge wrestling fan. Ted was, but he was the only one in the company that was.
Right.
Which is why WCW failed, was because Ted kept throwing money at it, and people kept saying, "You're losing money. Let's get rid of it." And eventually, he got it voted out.
Well, no, it was kicked out because of the AOL Time Warner merger, and he no longer had any power.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, had he not sold to AOL, we'd probably still have WCW TV.
Yeah. But that's okay. We have AEW starting in 2 weeks.
I just wish that if Sinclair does sell and Anthem does buy it, that they do what I always wanted them to do with WCW and WWF and have 2 separate shows.
Well, the interesting thing with that is that if they were to buy Ring of Honor and get rid of one of the companies, which one is more toxic? Because Ring of Honor right now, they've lost so much of their big stars over the last year, and they're doing so poorly in attendance. But yet, Impact is so closely associated with TNA, which for years was rumored of always shutting down and always having paychecks be behind for stars, and stars not wanting to work there anymore, or going back on agreements with their stars as far as working other promotions and things like that. I mean, TNA seems like every year there's a rumor about that company is shutting down. The most recent one was the talks between Access TV and Impact had fallen through, and they weren't going to have a TV deal within the next month. And now all of a sudden they bought the company's bought Access TV.
How's that for a great promotional strategy? What, you don't want to show our promotion on your TV channel? Well, fuck it, we'll just buy the TV channel. Now try and stop us. I love it. That's the kind of cutthroat business we need.
Yeah, absolutely. So well, if my point though is simply like if one of the organizations is going to shut down, I don't know what would be better to shut down. Ring of Honor and move all the Impact stars, remove the stars to Impact, or Impact and move all the stars to Ring of Honor, or do you just create a brand new promotion?
Well, I mean, Impact has already started trying to make the change to get away from the badness associated with TNA. The fact that they changed their name to Impact, the fact that they've started things now like paying for their talent's travel expenses. Like, they pay for the travel, they pay for the hotel room, and give them a per diem to eat when they're on the road. So they're going a long way towards fixing those things. I mean, there's been certain people that have left recently, and most of that has been over creative differences, not so much the treatment. But from what I understand is nobody's missed a paycheck since Anthem took over. And right. they've had it now for, what, a year and a half?
I think it's over 2 years now, isn't it?
I don't know. I know Callis and Diamore became the presidents there like 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, but I didn't think Anthem bought it then. I thought they were in talks because it was just about 2 years ago that they were in talks with Billy Corgan to buy it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I don't know for sure.
And my internet right now is just allowing me to stay live on Skype. Every time I try and search something, it won't even let me pull up another website. So
yeah, I'm gonna try my phone.
I can't look it up.
Anthem buys Impact Wrestling. January 4th, 2017.
All right, yeah, so 2 years ago, 2.5, almost 3 years ago.
Same day as Wrestle Kingdom, 11?
Yep.
That's
so
funny.
Yeah, almost 3 years ago now, I guess.
Yeah.
So maybe my timelines are just messed up.
Yeah, and it may have taken them a while to get things straightened out and make sure everybody was getting paid right and all that kind of stuff. But I do remember that was kind of like, people, when it first started out, it was like, let's bring in Alberto Del Rio. It's like, let's fucking not.
Yeah, but that was more Dixie than Anthem. All that stuff really happened under Dixie's watch. I mean, you can't fault them for bringing in top talent, but she was always the one who ran after everybody that WWE cut, and then tried to duplicate their storylines and all that stuff. Because Robert Roode, he left, him and Eric Young, they left when it was still under Dixie. And that's when the whole Albert Del Rio stuff was happening.
But I mean, when EC3 left, I'm pretty sure Anthem had already taken over by that point.
Probably.
I mean, wasn't the main event of Bound for Glory 2017? So we're just under 2 years ago. Wasn't that Eli Drake against Alberto El Patron?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay, I think it was. But I mean, the point is that they really turned it around since then, and now they've gone. They bought Impact, and now less than 2 less than 3 years later, they buy Access TV, and they're the first Canadian company ever to own an American television company, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
And I do
and
love
I mean,
the fact
that's the thing is that you and I were talking earlier about you saw somebody listing Impact, listing Indie Town, and they were listing people from Impact. Well, you can't do that anymore because if your parent company believes in you so much that they buy then they buy you a television network to be on, you are no longer an indie company.
The video I was talking about, and I really want to watch it again and see if I can pick it out, because there were a lot of names on there I'd never heard before, and I really kind of want to go and see them. But it was a What Culture video, and they were ranking the top 10 stars of the future or whatever. And the guy from Impact...
You realize that What Culture is almost always wrong, right?
Well, yeah, I get that. But there were a few of the names that I agree with. Like Jacob Fatu was number 2. Ace Austin was, I think, number 8. And they were talking about Ace Austin. I want to say they mentioned he was in Impact at the time, but I'm not sure. And I guess it wasn't top indie stars. It was top future stars, because they did list some people from NXT. And, and I can't really call NXT an indie promotion.
No.
And they did list, I want to say Luchasaurus was on there too, but I can't remember. And this was a fairly recent video. It wasn't something that was done 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that I'm super happy for Impact that now they have this national platform, because like we've been saying for months, other than perhaps MLW, depending on your taste, they are the best weekly wrestling television program out there, and that includes WWE, it includes NXT. They're just really good. It makes I'm kind of angry with myself that I haven't made the time to watch them more, because I do enjoy them so much.
I really wish I had more time. In fact, that's what I fall asleep to, is usually Impact Wrestling. Just because that's the only time I get to actually sit down and watch it. Which is sad. I really wish I had enough time in my life to watch all the wrestling we want to watch. It's just, unless this ever becomes a full-time job, it's not something I'm going to be able to do.
Yes, that's a very good point.
With that said, go to our Patreon.
What's that?
And with that said, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Make a donation today, people.
Please.
Get us to a point where we can retire from our day jobs and just do wrestling all the time. We'll give you 5 shows a week. I think we could do that.
Yeah. We would love to take over Busted Open for Dave and Bully and talk pro wrestling and not WWE 90% of the time.
Right. It would be nice, because you could listen to this shit 5 nights a week.
You just called it shit.
Well, have you heard us?
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you're trying to promote us and get people to pay us to watch to listen to, you probably shouldn't be calling it shit.
I guess it's not really the best marketing term, is it?
No.
All right, this ADD show you could listen to 5 days a week,
and you want to.
Of course.
But anyway, my point was that I would love I'm going to take some time this week, now that we decided that we're not going to cover NJPW next week, because we're going to watch ROH's big show, Death Before Dishonor, and talk about that next week. So I'm going to take some time this week to try to get caught up at least a little bit on Impact. I definitely want to watch the match with the Rascals versus LAX, and that loser leaves Impact match. I wonder who won that one, but still.
Gee. And we forgot to do that, and I don't want to get away from this Impact Ring of Honor talk, because I kind of want to come back to that. But that's something we forgot to really talk about, is who's that next level of tag teams. I mean, there is beyond that top 5. there is so much freaking talent out there. With when you look at people like I said, the Street Profits, you got Aussie Open, SCC, the Rascals, the North. There is just so much underlying talent that it's hard to not be excited to where tag teams are going in the future.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, the tag team that I'm most excited for out there besides the North and the Grizzled Young Veterans and the Rascals is a team that I think doesn't even exist yet. Because I'm just excited to see what they could do if they were actually to put them together, like I suggested a couple of weeks ago, and that is the team of Jimmy Havoc and Darby Allin.
Oh, that would be fun.
I think it would just be outstanding.
That would be a lot of fun. I could really get behind that. I still want to see those two in like a mentor type role. But
Well, yeah,
anyway,
that
okay.
could be part of it. Sure.
Since we're kind of hypothetically doing this, and not really, there's no substantial evidence on Ring of Honor and this Impact merger. I still, if it were to come to it, and let's say Impact does buy Ring of Honor, and they decide they're going to dissolve them, who is coming off the Ring of Honor roster to WWE? And who's just going to get their out? Yeah, and just to Impact, and who's going to, the rest are of course just going to get their outright release. But who out of Ring of Honor would you want to see an Impact? I mean, obviously all three members of the Kingdom I'd want. I'd want Skrull.
Yeah, I think all three members of the Kingdom, and I think that that's they're gonna have a chance to shine, especially if you do them against OVE. I would bring the Bouncers in because you need to add more teams to that tag division.
Yep. So the Briscoes come as well.
Oh yeah, obviously the Briscoes.
And coast to coast. And coast to coast.
See, I'm not as sold on coast to coast as some people are. I know you mentioned them earlier, but I mean, I've never really gotten into them.
I think they're a fun mesh of styles. And I think that's the only... I think they've got a lot of potential. I mean, Jesus, I can't even remember their name half the time. So they're not like... they're not first and foremost this tag team, yes, we got to have them.
Right.
But I think they have a lot of promise. I think with the right booking, they could be a thing. I really do.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously you've got to bring Cheeseburger over with them.
Well, yeah, you have to bring that whole Shinsuke or the Shinobi Shadow Squad. But I guess I'm not so sold on Ryan Nova, but Cheeseburger is such a popular guy, you got to bring him over, and I definitely think you need Eli Isom.
Well, I was kidding about Cheeseburger, and you were totally serious.
I actually am serious. I think he would be. That's one thing that Impact hasn't had since Eric Young and who was that other guy? Rockstar Spud left. They haven't had that just straight up comedy character.
I don't want there to be a comedy character.
There has to be. There always has to be at least one comedy character.
Well, then let it be Fallah Bahh teaming up with Joe Hendry.
I guess you're right. Fallah Bahh and KM are kind of a comedy team.
I haven't seen KM for a while, though. What's up with him?
I don't know. I haven't, like I said, I haven't been keeping tabs on the weekly stuff as much as I wanted to.
Right.
But I think you definitely, even if, Cheeseburger is a joke, I really do think we need Eli Isom.
Well, even though Shane Taylor's contract was bought out recently,
really,
I'm still going to say that I would bring Shane Taylor in.
Wait, what? Is he? Did I miss something? Is he no longer the TV champ?
Oh, he's the TV champ. They're trying to convince him to defend the championship at Death Before Dishonor.
And he wasn't going to?
They have bought out his contract.
Okay, you know what? Fuck it. Sinclair, sell the damn company if that's how you're going to run your business. You don't buy out a guy's contract while he's still the champion. That's just stupidity. No, I'm not kidding.
I'm laughing at you because it's a storyline.
Oh, okay.
Think about it. Think about what they've been doing with Shane Taylor for the last... How they've been talking about how, like, he's been complaining about how he hasn't been booked on any posters, or he hasn't been booked on any show, or he hasn't been booked on many shows, how he never announced on the posters.
Okay,
so I'm pretty sure this announcement they've made on their website that they bought out his contract is just a storyline.
Oh, if it's only on their website and not being reported somewhere else, then yeah, it's a storyline. It's a lot like the SCU thing.
Yeah.
No, I thought you
wow,
were serious.
You went nuts
Are
on
you
that.
fucking kidding me?
I know. It's insane.
As soon as I heard that, I was just like, I thought you were reporting like real news, and I was like, wait a minute. No,
I'm reporting it as
as
it was reported on their website.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense.
Okay.
Asshole.
Yeah, I knew I'd get you with that.
And I mean, of course, Joe Hendry, as much as he annoys me, he is talented. He would definitely need to come over.
Well, I think they should buy them just to get Joe Hendry back, since he left them to go to Defiant, and the Defiant closed.
Well, I guess
with Ring of Honor.
I guess from what I heard is he was never under contract with either one of those two companies. He was just on a per diem basis.
Oh, really?
He, like, even Impact, that's why he was there one day in a storyline, gone the next.
Oh.
Is because he was just on a per diem thing. He was never fully signed to them. Ring of Honor, in fact, is supposedly his first ever major contract.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, outside, of course, his record label.
Obviously, Jeff Cobb, you have to bring over.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Flip is another one. In fact, I think all of Villain Enterprises, with the exception of PCO.
Yeah, you really don't like PCO.
I just don't see him as having a future in... I mean, we've seen PCO and what PCO does. I'm over it. In fact, that last match that I saw with him, where he just, for some ungodly reason, ran and dove out of the ring on the opposite side of where Brody and his opponent were, and then busted himself open doing it. I think we're at the end of PCO and his antics.
Yeah, I guess we'll see if the crowd agrees with you or not.
No, they don't, because they like seeing a 50-year-old man trying to kill himself. And can you blame him? I just don't think he's... I'm bored with him already. I just think I've seen everything he can do, and I'm bored with him.
You know what I really enjoy about watching his matches is when Colt Cabana's calling them, because then you have Ian Riccaboni going, it's the French-Canadian Frankenstein, and then Cabana will correct him, it's the French-Canadian Frankenstein's monster.
Right.
And Colt is absolutely correct about that.
I think if this were to happen, you need to bring that announcing team over too, and maybe have a B show, an A and a B show, and have Cole Cabana, Caprice, and Ian do one side of it, and Matt Stryker and Don Callis do the other side.
Well, I'd be fine with just Ian and Callis working together, and maybe Colt working with them too.
Yeah, I would love to see like a team of them, or even if Colt wanted to just not do it anymore, maybe have him be the backstage guy, the comedy guy, or whatever, and throw Matt Stryker out there. I don't mind a 3-man booth when it's done right.
Right. I mean, I prefer 2-man booths, but I hate. Excuse me. I hate to lose either Callis or Cabana. I would love to lose Josh Matthews, though.
Even if it was just Ian and Callis, I think that's an announcing team that could rival Kevin Kelly and Callis.
Yeah, I think as much as I love Kevin Kelly, I think that if Callis really wanted to be evil, he would send Josh Matthews over to NJPW.
I don't think NJPW wants him. I don't know how he got into an ironclad contract where they can never fire the guy, but seriously, Josh Matthews is easily the worst announcer out there.
Yeah.
Even worse than Alex Marvez at Double or Nothing.
It would have been nice for Jericho to mention that on the podcast. It's when are you going to get a better play-by-play guy for your show?
Right. Well, when are you going to get one? You have a better one doing backstage interviews. That just annoys me that Matt Stryker is doing backstage interviews.
Right.
Oh, and I heard NWA did make a new signing. Jim
Who's
Cornette.
that?
Jim Cornette has been signed as their color commentator.
Oh yeah, I did see that too.
Makes me wonder who they're going to have do play-by-play.
Well, no, they're doing the same team they did for both the 70th anniversary show and the Crockett Cup. So that should be a really strong announced team.
Who was the other guy?
I can't think of his name. Joe something, right?
It's the guy from Hollywood Championship Wrestling, right?
Right. Joe Galley, maybe?
And that sounds familiar.
I'm just looking it up right now.
I would, but my internet sucks.
I know, but I have a different phone internet than I do for regular internet. So.
Oh, I do too. They're both AT&T, but they're both AT&T. One's through a modem, and my phone just because what's the point of turning on my Wi-Fi at home when it's going off the same damn network?
Oh.
So when they're both AT&T and both on the same plan, there's really no point.
Okay. I'm looking right now, but I'm not finding it. I know I saw it the other day, though. Jim Cornette. Joe Galley, yeah.
Joe Galley, okay, yeah.
So Jim Cornette and Joe Galley. So I really enjoyed those two working together. Once Cornette got over being a crotchety old man at the 70th anniversary show. So.
Yeah, and to be honest, he wasn't that bad.
No, it was just the first couple of matches that he got over it. That's why I'm saying once he got past that.
Right.
Unfortunately, it was during the match. Just some guys that we really enjoyed watching.
Like Sammy Guevara.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ray, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity here for. I do like your idea of them running both organizations if they were to purchase Ring of Honor, but at the same time, I think that the two organizations are run quite differently. Like Ring of Honor will do a lot of house shows where they're broadcast as live events on Honor Club, the Honor Club exclusives. But Impact is basically, they do television, they do their pay-per-views, and they do their specials, and then their talent is free to work elsewhere. Right,
and who's to say they don't adopt that type of style for Ring of Honor? Obviously, what Ring of Honor is doing right now isn't working. And let's just say Impact does buy them. They throw them on the Impact Plus app. Now all of a sudden you've got that ridiculous library and Ring of Honor shows that are being run a lot like Impact is with their TV. Then you've got your 4 pay-per-views a year, and then you've got your specials. They're like Twitch specials and things. If they run it the same type of way, I would, in a heartbeat, drop $10 a month on that Impact Plus channel for all that content.
Right, but we've already paid for Honor Club for a year, so hopefully,
hopefully
this that don't get rolled. Maybe they'll get rolled into the Impact
Honor
Plus
Club
somehow.
Or maybe they'll just refund it if they shut it down, or maybe they'll leave it up through the end of the year.
Yeah.
And just not let you renew afterwards.
Speaking of Honor
this
Club,
is all hypothetical, by the way.
Speaking of Honor Club, you just got done saying about how Sinclair has more money than God, basically, right?
Right.
All right.
Well, no,
so,
at least more money than Vince.
So that being the case, don't you think that instead of only showing stuff from 2011 on because their old stuff has licensed music on it, they would have to pay for or scrub clean off of there and redo the music on? That if they have billions of dollars, don't you think they could just pay for the fucking rights fees and show the goddamn shows?
They're not show. I guess I haven't.
On Honor Club, you can't watch anything from 2002 on unless you watch those limited collections that they have because they don't want to pay people for the license for the music that they were using that didn't have the licensure to use.
See, and now I guess I didn't realize that. I thought that it was they just hadn't gotten around to uploading it because, like, look at how long it took WWE to get their full library up. It took them almost 7 to 8 years, and they still don't have the full library up.
Yeah, they haven't gotten around to uploading it because they have to either scrub the music off of there or actually pay for the rights to use it.
Okay, the more and more stuff I find out about Sinclair, the more I just want them to sell the damn promotion. Yeah. If they're not going to hire somebody to scrub the damn stuff to get it on the app, come on.
Well,
You're a billion-dollar company.
And they did do that, like, for the stuff for those collections, but it's been, what, at least 4 months since they put another collection up there.
And see, that's another thing that's killing me too. Is the whole reason I don't watch more of that Ring of Honor is because I have to do it on my phone. I don't have it. Doesn't work through my browser on my Fire Stick, and they haven't made an app yet. We're 2 years in. Can we make an app for the Fire Stick?
Or you can buy a Roku for $20.
Why would I buy a Roku when I have a perfectly good Fire Stick?
So you can watch Honor Club?
Stop making sense. Just stop.
Sorry.
And I'm still upset that my WWN subscription doesn't work on my Fire Stick either. I don't get it. I can log in perfectly fine on my phone. I cannot log in on the Fire Stick.
You know, the other thing with the thing with the Honor Club is the same thing I've been saying about NJPW World for years too. It's like, well, why can you have an Amazon Fire Stick app but you can't have a Roku app?
Makes sense.
It's exactly the opposite problem.
The one thing I wish about I absolutely love the NJPW app. I love the way that they will show the full show, and then after about 3 weeks they cut it up so you can just pick the matches. I just wish they would organize it better. I really, really wish they would just organize it better because it's almost impossible to go back to 2011 and watch 2013 and watch an AJ Styles match. You end up scrolling through so much shit just to get there.
Well, you can search by AJ Styles.
Yeah, and then you get all kinds of random stuff that doesn't have any, like promos and things like that don't have anything to do with any of his matches.
I guess I didn't realize that.
Because there's been times I've wanted to go back and watch some Ishii matches and some Shibata matches, and I've searched for just Shibata, and it brings up like 3 pages of him cutting promos and their little promotional stuff that they do before each title match. And for like a week they'll put out these pre-recorded things to get you hyped up for it and all that stuff. But even doing that, it still takes forever to find the match you want. I just wish they would organize it.
If you want to watch like a half-hour NJPW match from like say 5 years ago, you have to devote 2 hours and that 30 minutes because you have to find the match first.
It was nice because when we did our Chris Benoit special on Patreon, I was able to find that Benoit or the Pegasus Kid versus Tiger Mask, or no, Black Tiger, Guerrero and Benoit. Mm-hmm. But it took me damn half an hour to find it because I had to go to years, then I had to go to the right year, then I had to search through the shows. I couldn't just plug in Benoit and it would come up.
Right.
And it's a lot like the new WWE app, which I guess it is getting better. There's a couple of features I found on it that I really like. Where before when you wanted to skip through a pay-per-view to find a match, you would have to like scroll over and read the description and keep scrolling. Now you can just go down below the screen that's playing, and they've got all the matches listed there, and you can just pop on whichever one you want. So I mean, they are making some improvements. I still hate the fact that they got
wait. What did you just say you can do?
Like when I watch it on my laptop, when I watched the last NXT, or no, when we were doing our Harley Race stuff,
Yeah.
I found a lot of the Harley Race stuff on there, and it was nice and easy because I just searched Harley Race, and then it came up with this whole listing of just the matches, and you could click on the show, and when you're watching the show, you could jump right to the Harley Race match. You didn't have to surf through each one. You could just look down right below the screen where the video is playing. If you scroll up a little bit, there's a listing of all the matches right there, and you could just click to whichever one you want. I ended up that same night I watched Ted DiBiase versus Hulk Hogan.
I do not believe you can do that on the Roku app. You can do next match, which is pretty cool.
I guess I haven't really explored it on the Fire Stick yet because I can't wrestle that thing away from my kid in Paw Patrol.
Yeah.
But on my laptop, I love it. I'm actually starting to like the upgrade a lot better. I wish they wouldn't have gotten rid of the collections. I wish they still had the format they had before where you could go to the vault and then Madison Square Garden shows and that. But I don't mind that their search function has really cleaned up. The way that you jump through matches or through cards has really cleaned up. And if you know what you're searching for, you can find it pretty easy now.
Yeah, I do like how you can press the skip match button, and then you can skip to you can skip the match you're watching, go to the next one. And so it makes it really quick and easy to skip through, even if you can't do what you. I don't believe you can do on the Roku, what you were just saying, but you can still very easily get to what you want to watch.
Right, yeah, and that's another nice thing too. You can skip the intro; it goes right to the first match. Then you can skip the matches. You just push one button and it jumps through everything. They've cleaned up a lot. I know when they first rolled it out, I hated it, but they've improved it quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, last month or so since that latest update.
Yeah,
I still wish
obviously they heard you bitching about it and decided to change things.
Of course, you know. that's always the way that it works. all I know is whatever they've done, it's worked because I'm starting to like the app. The app is easier to find, and even though I'm not watching WWE proper, I do still like to jump on and watch. Ryan pointed out a couple matches like Kofi versus Orton. Right. on last night's show, and it's nice because I can jump on. I don't have to sit through all the shit, and I can just jump on and jump right over to that match and watch that match. I don't have to listen to anything or think of anything. I just go.
You know what's great? This is like the fourth time I forgot that there was actually a show last night.
I forgot last night. Literally, I honestly had no clue until I started getting updates on my phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, there's a show tonight.
Anything exciting happen there?
Not that I saw.
I mean, did Randy Orton finally take the title from Kofi?
Nope, Kofi won.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're all in on this. They are all in on this Kofi push. I think they're setting up a heel turn, and Ryan kind of mentioned it, but just the way that I've been kind of seeing, from the outside, not actually watching the shows, but it feels like they might be finally getting to that point where they wanted Big E a few years ago to push him now with a heel turn on Kofi.
Oh, so not a Kofi heel turn.
No, a heel turn for Big E, and they can get him back to his 5 second ending and all that crap. That cocky, arrogant guy that came up with Dolph Ziggler, and they tried to push him with the IC title after that, but he failed miserably. I think they might be trying to push him again.
You know, I always wonder why nobody has ever taken back over the mantle from Daniel Bryan, or I should say Bryan Danielson, of that whole "I have until 5" referee.
Because I don't think it's possible.
Oh,
You know,
Yeah,
and
I thought maybe I lost you and didn't know what I was talking about.
no, one thing we were talking about earlier too that I kind of want to jump back to, and you just mentioned it by saying Bryan Danielson. When you look at Impact and Ring of Honor has a great history of being a starting ground.
Right.
Where Impact has a great history of making stars. If you look at throughout their history, I mean, granted, Kurt Angle was a star before he got there, but arguably he became a bigger star when he was with Impact. Sting was a big star, but he had some character turns with the Main Event Mafia and stuff like that made him bigger. AJ Styles is a homegrown talent. EC3 was a homegrown talent.
Right.
Eddie Edwards has gotten to a whole new level as a part of Impact. And you don't see that with Ring of Honor. You see guys that get to a point where they're starting to really, really develop, and then they're gone. I mean, outside of the Bucks when they re-signed, and the Briscoes who are just lifers, and Jay Lethal, is there anybody that they've made that has stuck around?
No, there isn't.
And when you look at Impact's history, I think AJ Styles, had Anthem owned it back in 2014, would probably still be there.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. I mean, the thing is that a lot of guys left Ring of Honor because of TNA. Because TNA, after originally telling them, they could work for anybody, they said, well, you can work for anybody but Ring of Honor. And so, a lot of guys, some guys, like CM Punk, for instance, stuck with Ring of Honor.
Right.
Other guys just said, okay, and, they said, well, my contract doesn't actually, they even though the contract didn't actually say what the company was telling them, they're like, okay, well, I guess, if I want to keep working for you, I have to leave Ring of Honor, and they left, and they went to Impact, or TNA.
Yeah, I mean, well, Danielson, or Christopher Daniels, I mean, and Frankie Kazarian, Jay Lethal, those were guys that did that. But you also look at all the guys that were made there and left to go to WWE.
Yeah.
You had CM Punk, you had Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe ended up going to Impact, but that wasn't by choice. And when he did leave, he wasn't one of those guys that just didn't come back because Impact told him he couldn't. He just didn't come back. When he left Ring of Honor, he was done with Ring of Honor. So I mean, Ring of Honor has been good for a lot of things and for kind of developing stars, but they don't become true stars. I mean, they become stars on the indie scene, and they're people that we love watching and we love their characters, but they don't hit that next level until they went to Impact or until they went to NJPW or until they went to WWE. That's when they really hit their next gear.
Right.
And you see that full force right now with Red Dragon and all of Undisputed Era. All those guys are Ring of Honor originals. Well, I think Cole was a Evolve original, but then he ended up in Ring of Honor. But O'Reilly, Fish, and Roderick Strong, those are all Ring of Honor guys. That's where they got their start.
Yeah.
And they are much, much bigger stars now than they would have ever become if they'd stayed in Ring of Honor. So, I mean, if you look at who should be folded, as much as I love the Ring of Honor banner and the stuff that they've done, and as much as I like Bully Ray's booking and some of the character work that they've got going on in Ring of Honor, I think if it came down to it, Ring of Honor or Impact, it would have to be Ring of Honor the one that goes. Just because I think Impact has a better, not just track record, but they're known more for the guys that they've had. Where Ring of Honor, you find out, oh, Daniel Bryan used to be there, CM Punk used to be there. They're not known for being there. Out of people that are out of the the hardcores.
Yeah, and you would have hoped that would have changed when Sinclair took them over, because like you said, they're just they're a big billionaire company, but
right.
It just never has. They've never, for whatever reason, they've never been able to keep the talent there, because I just don't think Sinclair's been willing to put in the the money to pay the talent the way that the way that Impact did, or be mercenary, or or in some senses be as mercenary as Impact was.
Right. Well, and I mean, Impact has made some bad decisions, but they've gone a long way over the last 2 years of fixing those bad decisions. They've paid their talent well. They are putting on a good product now with a national platform. And when you look at it, people like EC3, the reason he left was because they weren't a national company. He was a guy being lost in the shuffle. Well, that and his unfortunate promo where he called himself the only ever homegrown talent in TNA history, that kind of soured a lot of people on him. But
you had never heard of AJ Styles before?
Yeah. The crowd started booing immediately and chanting AJ Styles, and then there was just this ridiculous Twitter backlash about it. So it was kind of hard for EC3 to really come back from that. But I don't know. I mean, I think they've got a bigger history than Ring of Honor does, even though they started about the same time, because they're both 2002.
Yeah.
But they've done more creative things. They've had stronger talent. They've created stronger talent. And they have a much better history, even though they've got some work to do on the whole getting over what Dixie Carter did to the company. They still have a much bigger history than Ring of Honor does.
As much as I hate to say it, I think I agree with you on that.
Oh, believe me, it pains me even thinking it, because I love Ring of Honor so much. And I was so soured on TNA after Dixie Carter took over. And then hearing all the stories and all that stuff, it just really soured me on it. But when you look at their history, especially under the Jarretts, you can't deny what they did.
No, I mean, I feel like I'm not even sure how exactly I want to say this. I feel like for a pure wrestling promotion, Ring of Honor has always been better than TNA. But certainly I can't disagree with what you're saying about the fact that TNA has always has about bigger stars. I just hate the way they've gone about it at times.
Oh, I do too. But you also have to look at the fact that Impact is also global. They've got deals in the Middle East. They've got deals in UK. That's why it was always laughable to me when people would say that they're going to fail. They're going to close their doors, is because really, do you know how much money they're bringing in off of these international deals?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ultimately, they are a bigger company than Ring of Honor. And they've got more name value outside of, and even the change to Impact, the only thing it really did was kind of distance themselves from the Dixie Carter era.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could look at it and say that they've always had a better business model than Ring of Honor has.
Yeah.
Because they started out being on pay-per-view to start with. Those weekly pay-per-views, and Ring of Honor started, I want to say, like 4 months before TNA did. But they started off just running, the ECW arena and stuff, and it was all, you could buy the DVDs months later.
Right.
But the only way to actually see them live was to watch them in their arenas. That's not true anymore, but I mean, it was at the time.
And people don't really understand how great of a wrestling mind both Jerry and Jeff are. They say everything you want about his work ethic after he left WCW and how he, made some bad decisions as far as booking himself and maybe caused a little too much drama with the whole Karen Jarrett thing. But Jeff Jarrett has an amazing mind for wrestling. An amazing mind. And even after Jerry kind of stepped back and, sold to Dixie, it was still Jeff that was keeping that alive. Then when, Dixie sent him home, and that's when it really started to go downhill. It sent him home and brought in Hogan and Bischoff, and, that's where the wheels fell off. But Jeff has an incredible mind. I don't think he really gets credit for, not only that, but the business side of things and everything involved with it.
Yeah, I just wish that he didn't wrestle.
After 2002, well, I don't know. I loved his feud with Christian, with the instant classic Christian Cage.
See, and I always just felt he was so choreographed as a professional wrestler that I just couldn't buy into his matches.
He was after he left WCW. I think his heart just was no longer in it. I think he was just out there because he felt like he was the, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
What?
I just got a alert of who the new King of the Ring is.
Oh, Baron Corbin?
Yeah. I can't believe they're still... How many stop and starts are they gonna... Jesus Christ, I guess my football night is done too. 2 guys I put the most money on are out for the night.
Oh, that's okay.
No.
We're doing positivity here, remember?
Oh, yeah, positive. I mean, Baron Corbin was one of those guys that really turned it around on the main roster, but they buried him for so long that he's not believable in this role. Chad Gable was the guy that you could make a huge star out of.
Well, you can say the thing about Bray Wyatt, and they brought him back to critical acclaim. So.
Yeah, but they brought him back off of a ridiculous character change that revamped his entire career. Baron Corbin is still the same guy.
But with style.
No, not with style.
Are you sure?
No, not really.
Okay. What else we got to cover this week?
There was one other thing we were talking about, wasn't there?
I think we're going to talk about MLW, so we've got about 15 minutes left.
But I mean, what else can you say? It's still the best show that I watch, and I make a point to watch it weekly. In fact, I'm probably going to watch the War Games that debuted tonight, because it's one of the few times I've been just jonesing to watch a match in a long time. I
was thinking the same thing. I'm probably going to watch that tonight. I love the way they built up to it. I love the stuff going on with Mance Warner again, as usual. But I mean, I love how he, brought a chainsaw to the ring, and there's actual consequences to him doing that.
Right. I just wish it hadn't been a week later that they arrested him and he was sitting in jail. Like they could have. This last couple weeks, there's been a few miscues that I wish they would have thought out a little bit better. But as far as an indie promotion goes, there's nobody that's doing it better. As far as any promotion goes, I mean, I haven't watched enough Impact really to say that they're on MLW's level yet. Right. But I've been saying this for almost 10 months now. MLW is the best show on TV. The best wrestling show on TV, and they continue to prove it week after week after week. No matter who leaves, they just bring someone else in. And who was it that called it a couple months ago that Low Key was going to be the 4th member?
That would be Shane.
No. You said that people wouldn't buy him as a face.
I said people shouldn't buy him as a face.
Oh, all right. Well, whatever. The 2 missteps that I've seen them do recently that have kind of bothered me a little bit was the Mance Warner thing when he got arrested for the chainsaw incident. Why wait an entire week to arrest him and then act like he's sitting in jail right now?
I see what you mean. You mean why? You mean they should have had him arrested earlier in the week instead of right before the show?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Why did they wait a whole week to have him arrested? They should have said, this happened this week. He was arrested and he's been barred from the arena or something like that. And then he shows up at the end of the night with his chainsaw. I think would have made for a much better story.
You know what?
Then
you act like you've never seen pro wrestling in your life when you say something like that.
Well, I know. And the other... you're unplugged, dude. There you go. Back?
Yeah, my dog had pulled up my cord again.
All right. Well, the other real big misstep I felt like they had is it's no secret that Low Key was going to be their partner. It hasn't been for months. The way that they were turning him, the way that he was, declaring war on Contra. I don't mind them waiting until they did to do it, but I felt like they let the beating go on a little too long. I mean, the beating had gone on so long that Contra was in the ring celebrating for a good amount of time before Low Key made his entrance. I think if he had made his if his music would have hit maybe 3 minutes earlier, it would have been a little more impactful. He still could have done that amazing kick to what's his name, Quan, that he did, but it could have been done about 3 minutes earlier.
Maybe he was in the back having a drink and he missed his cue. Did you ever think of that?
No, because they waited for his music to play. Regardless, if that's the case, well, whatever, it still sucked. So, but those are, and both those miscues happened this last week or 2 weeks ago. So it's the first time I think, well, I still think having La Parka as the next challenger is kind of a miscue too, but that's besides the point.
It's interesting that he's in the wing and that he's in the wings, and it's even more interesting that they chose this week or I should say last week, for Selena to get her phone back from Conan. But I've been thinking this entire time that it doesn't really matter whether she gets her actual phone back, because you can copy data files.
Right.
You can email them to your own email address or something. So. Right. So I'm going to be a little bit disappointed if this is actually the end of that story, and they don't run with that you dumb bitch, I already transferred the files, so you didn't save anything by stealing it back, and now you owe me more demands.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I really hope that's not the end of the story. And another thing that I've noticed over the last couple of months is Serena De La Renta's stable really sucks. I mean, you've got a 50-year-old guy who's your next heavyweight champion. You have 3 or 4 luchadors who haven't really proven much. I mean, El Hijo de LA Park is very talented and fun to watch, but the rest of the guys, I mean, Ricky Martinez is a joke. Mm-hmm. He's not even a jobber to the stars. He's below that. He's just a straight up jobber. And then when you look at this Damien 666 or whatever, or Sace,
yeah,
he's only had 2 matches. He hasn't done anything that's impressed me yet. Jimmy Havoc isn't even considered part of the stable. He's just a consultant. So really, this stable went from being the most dangerous stable in MLW to really a joke.
Speaking of them though, and Jimmy Havoc being the consultant there, and things like that. I think it's really cool the way that MLW and AEW are working together in these situations.
Yeah, 'cause I know there was a big thing with Moxley where he wasn't allowed to wrestle in the U.S., which is why he was put on the B block.
Oh, is that true?
That's what I heard, and the same thing with Jericho. Jericho's not allowed to wrestle on U.S. soil.
Outside of AEW, you mean?
Outside of AEW, but
okay.
maybe they've got a different arrangement with MJF and Havoc, and I thought they had that arrangement with the Lucha Brothers too for a little while.
Yeah, it's interesting because we haven't seen the Lucha Bros at all since Phoenix put over Airwolf.
Right.
I think it was Airwolf, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Airwolf.
Yeah.
Who's
okay.
Ridiculously good, by the way.
Yeah. And I got to see him live, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm still jealous. And then, I mean, you had Ace Austin, who came back a couple of times, but now I think he's pretty much gone from the promotion.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they're still working together because, Tony Schiavone was able to work it out so he could work with both promotions, and Tony was saying what a great guy Court Bauer is, and he was actually telling people they should be watching MLW during the StarCast stuff. So.
Oh, they should be. It's such a great It's such a great show. It's so
Well,
well
I
done.
agree, but I mean, for another business owner to be saying you should be watching this product is pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. It's those are the only real missteps that I've seen so far. I love the Mance Warner thing. I really wish Sammy Callahan had been able to stay because I really was liking that pairing. I thought they were really good with Mance Mance, right?
Yeah.
Okay, with Mance Warner being the face and Sammy being that tweener, but them having such similar personalities, I thought was a great pairing that made for some really good TV.
Yeah, well, you can blame Jim Cornette for that one.
Oh, really? That's Cornette's fault?
Yeah.
He pushed to get Callahan out of there?
He and Callahan had, how Cornette was always ragging on him on commentary.
Yeah.
That wasn't just a work.
Really?
Yeah.
Does he not realize that the reason why Eddie got hit in the face with that baseball bat was because Eddie fucked up the spot?
He does not like any wrestlers like Sammy Callahan, Jimmy Havoc, probably the Young Bucks. Anybody that does things that is not the old school style of doing things.
Just stupid.
Yeah.
That's really too bad because they had a great thing going there with Sammy Callahan.
Yeah, but basically he had an altercation with Cornette, and so that's why Callahan was out of there.
Why would they let a guy that actually draws for them go because the color guy didn't get along with him?
Well, because he wasn't just a color guy, he was also consulting with their booking and everything.
Really? I thought because wasn't he on a per diem type basis?
As color commentator, he was, yeah.
Oh, but not on the consultant thing?
Right.
Just dumb. I know he bitched about Callahan and the whole bat thing a lot, hitting Eddie Edwards, his good friend Eddie Edwards, but the reality is that Eddie is the one who screwed up that spot. Eddie's the one who bent into the shot, and that's why he got hit in the eye with the bat. That was a complete accident, but that was Eddie that misread the spot.
Well, that's somewhat similar to people complaining about how the Styles Clash was dangerous a couple of years ago when a couple of guys broke their neck because they took the spot wrong.
Right, and the same thing with Triple H and the pedigree.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple guys that took that spot wrong, and they ended up breaking their necks, and Triple H was the one that got blamed. The only guy that you could honestly say caused the injury was Owen when he did the pile driver on Austin. He just had it set up wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's what happened with those guys. I have no idea who actually books MLW. I don't know if it's Cord himself or if he has somebody else that's actually doing the booking for that promotion. If it's Cord himself, he's a very fucking creative guy.
Whoever it is a genius.
Yeah.
Whether it's Court or somebody else or a consulting firm or whatever, he is able to make... This is another promotion that kind of scares me because they're kind of on the Ring of Honor type platform where they're going to create stars and then the stars are going to go and become bigger with a little more seasoning, because it just seems like you got a guy like Jacob Fatu who is the future of pro wrestling. And I can't see him staying with MLW forever.
Yeah, I feel like they should be signing guys to like 5-year contracts. Like Fatu, the Von Erichs, Tom Lawler, Low-Key. They've already got the Hart Foundation in their contract.
Right.
Speaking of which, did I tell you that Brian Pillman Jr. is kind of a dick?
Yeah, that's what I've heard from more than one person.
Yeah, I tried to shake his hand at that party I was at, and he kind of gave me like a little limp wrist thing. So he kind of gave me a handshake, but not really,
Yeah. Until he either cuts his mullet off or dyes it back to the brown that it was before, I don't want to talk about him being a human. I mean, I get
what
it.
Is he, like a jellyfish or what?
I don't know, but that blonde hair has got to go. That bleach blonde hair, and he needs to realize that he does not need to actually cut his hair like his dad to look like his dad.
Okay, so you don't like the blonde mullet helmet?
No, I don't like that at all. In fact, the first time he came out with it in that match against Hammerstone, I wanted to cry. It's not a good look for him.
You might have a problem if you wanted to cry over a professional wrestler's haircut, Jeff.
Dude, it was bad, though. It was hurting my eyes.
I stand by my statement.
I will say, too, that the Hart Foundation dynasty is still one of the better storylines going on.
I agree.
You know, especially with this latest with peeing on his jacket, on Hammerstone's jacket. I thought that was just fun.
It does feel like it's been going on for a long time, though.
It's for about 9 months.
And that's why I
into
think that originally we thought it was going to be the Hart Foundation against the dynasty that might be in the War Games.
Right. Because it's been going on for 9 months. This rivalry has been 9 months in the making, and they seem to continually find ways to make it stay fresh.
Right.
You know, with adding Davy's sister involved into the mix and dating Hammerstone, and then the whole thing with the stealing of the jacket, and I don't know what it is about Teddy Hart, but I love him bringing his cat out every time. I think that's a fun little thing too.
I love how Georgia was like cutting on him in the gym about the weight he was on that he had on. She's like, yeah, we started doing that when our first day in the Hart Dungeon.
Yeah, Harry and I used to lift that much when we were kids.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love the whole angle they're doing there, and I like the way Hammerstone is still. And I said it 8 months ago. I'm going to keep saying it. He is got such a bright future. He literally has every skill you need to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
And a good pro wrestler. He can talk. He can talk. He's got a good sense of humor, but he's also a badass. I just wish he would change up that Nightmare Pendulum, because that just looks like it's going to kill somebody at some point.
Did you watch his match against Go Shizaki?
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it.
It was a really solid match, but did you notice that Rich Bocchini called the basically he did like the not the gunstun. What the hell did he call that? Well, he did like the catatonic, and he called it as the Nightmare Pendulum. And then we did the second Nightmare Pendulum. He's like, or then we actually did. He's like, oh, he wins it with the second Nightmare Pendulum. It's like, no, dude, you're protecting that finisher. Nobody's kicked out of the Nightmare Pendulum. Nobody should ever kick out of the Nightmare Pendulum.
No, and I think the Nightmare Pendulum should be retired. After what I saw, what happened with the old man from Puerto Rico, what the hell's his name? Savio Vega. That's a really, really dangerous finisher for anybody that's a bigger guy. It works great when he was beating up the light heavyweights. But once he starts getting into 300-pound plus territory with these guys, that's not going to be a good finisher for him to do.
So because an old man couldn't take the move correctly, they should retire it.
I just think there's a lot of people that are going to be that size that aren't going to be able to take it correctly.
Or maybe he'll just get more experience with using it. I love that finish. I don't think he should get rid of it.
Well, I think it's a great finish. I think it's very inventive. It's nothing I've ever seen before. I just worry about it, and I thought that from the first time I saw it, that he's going to have trouble with bigger guys.
Well, like I said, I think maybe until he gets more experience with it. I don't think it's something where you just scrap the finisher because one loser gets injured. I said it. He's a loser.
Because one 50-year-old man got hurt.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with Eddie Edwards. You can't really blame Sami Callihan for Eddie Edwards' eye injury. But the fact that they were able to turn that into the kind of storyline that they did just shows how great Callis and Scott D'Amore are.
Right. As long as you don't look D'Amore on commentary, you're fine.
I would rather have him than Josh Matthews.
Yeah, but we hated him on that show that they did.
Those two as a pair was, I had to shut it off. I had to shut the commentary off completely. When you have both Matthews and D'Amore, I mean, D'Amore has never really been a great talker, which always made it weird that he was a manager, but He's another guy who has a good mind for the business.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I think that's why, Impact is doing so well booking wise, is because they have such two strong storyline and business mind, and Callahan, they were pushing it on the show. And if you guys haven't listened to Latest Talk is Jericho, it's a really good conversation with Callis, Jericho, and D'Amore about how they were able to turn Impact around, basically. And what they were talking about is that D'Amore basically is the scout, and then it's Callis' job to figure out how to put it all together and to get these guys, figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are, and get them to the point where they can become stars and become draws for the company.
We were talking, and I just thought of this now because you brought up Jericho, but we were talking, a month or so ago, about how we hate the way Conrad Thompson shoehorns ads into his interviews and stuff. I think Jericho might actually be worse at it, but at least Jericho makes them funny.
That was a bit annoying to listen to this morning.
Yeah, the cat promo, the cat one was funny though, where he goes, "I'm a rock star, an AEW champion, and I still have to clean the litter box." I thought that was humorous. And of course, it led to the classic line that Scott D'Amore treats Don Callis like he's his house pet whenever he comes over.
Yes, he did.
So
anyway, that's a little scary.
Yeah, right. All right, so I think that's pretty much all we have on this one. Really the social medias that matter: Twitter at RegioCoop, at ZanmanLOP. Change the hashtag to hashtag KOH to find us easier. And then of course our Patreon, which is the big one where we do a lot of original content, and just posted a couple new shows. Our episode 4 review of Jessica Jones in season 2, and our ECW. What was this one? Hostile City Showdown from 1994. Yeah. Not a great pay-per-view, but we kind of got a little sidetracked during that one, so it's always fun to listen to. And those are in our member-only sections. And to become a member, all you got to do is donate to help us continue to put out as much content as possible, because hard to believe, but this stuff's expensive. We enjoy doing it, but it does cost us some money. So, any donations you give us would be fantastic, and you can do that by going to patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Facebook, Kingdom of Honor. Just search Kingdom of Honor. It's a skull wearing a crown in front of a wrestling ring. It's easy to find, and like the page, share the page, share all the posts you can with all of your friends, get the word out as much as you can. And we're also on iTunes, YouTube, and iHeartRadio, right?
iHeartRadio, and we're on Podcoin right now too, but I've heard a nasty rumor that they're going away. So.
Which I really don't hope they do, because Podcoin is such a great app. If you don't have it, it's something where you get points for every minute you listen to a podcast, and when you get enough points, you can get a $5 gift card to Amazon or something like that. So, that's my favorite one. But any of your Podcoin, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podcoin, and especially YouTube. YouTube is a channel we really want to grow, and grow quickly. The more it grows, the more I am apt to put out videos where I just talk about wrestling. Same thing with Shane. We'll just get on, cut a quick 10, 15-minute shoot on whatever's happening that day or that week, and post it to our YouTube channel. Plus, this show is on our YouTube channel all the time as well. So, rate us 5 stars on all those platforms. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, we'd appreciate it, and it would help us a lot on the business end. If we get a lot of 5-star reviews, we could have other advertisers knocking at our door,
Which is what we want.
Indeed. We want to give you guys more content, and the more we get, the more we can generate some revenue, the more we can justify putting together, the extra time to give you guys more content.
Right, exactly.
Right?
And,
okay.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It does cost us. it's not cheap to have all these apps. Let's just put it that way. And we do appreciate everybody that does help us out. And, we're working on other things all the time. We've got some other ideas in the hopper that we really want to do. It's difficult when we can't really afford to put it down and do it. So, I hate to sound like I'm begging for money, but reality is for us to make more content. And we do put out a lot of content. So even like a $10 donation every single month gets you a lot of stuff to listen to. A lot of stuff to listen to, a lot of stuff to read. And if you don't want to, you just want our takes on stuff, go and like us on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, ring the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and like the videos. And we'll put out more and more as we can.
Absolutely. And if you can't afford $10, even $1 helps.
And we do have a $1 tier. Granted, you get to read the crap that I've written over the years, but it still helps us out. So,
yeah, and if it's not good for anything else, you can at least line Chris Jericho's litter boxes with it. So.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
So next week we'll be talking, like I said earlier, we'll be talking about Ring of Honor's latest pay-per-view, Death Before Dishonor. And we'll also be talking about some New Japan, right? Oh yeah, MLW's War Chambers tonight, and there's a couple of New Japan shows this week that we'll only be talking about the big matches, so we may have time to talk about that as well.
Well, yeah, and I'm probably only going to talk about the big matches on Ring of Honor too. It's spread it as thin as we can. We got to watch only the big matches. So,
yeah, and those big matches include Matt Taven defending the World Championship against Roosh, Shane Taylor defending the World Television title against Flip Gordon and somebody else, Tracy Williams, I believe. And we have the Briscoes defending the World Tag Team titles against two other members of Lifeblood in Mark Haskins and Bandito. And the long-running storyline between Jonathan Gresham and Jay Lethal comes to a head as those two have a one-on-one match against each other. A rematch of the worst match in Ring of Honor history.
Yeah, but did he finally do his heel turn? Is he full-fledged heel now?
I don't know.
Gresham. But, you just mentioned 5 guys that we completely forgot about. Roosh, Tracy Williams, Mark Haskins, Bandito, and even Jonathan Gresham. There's 5 guys right there that I wouldn't mind. If Impact were to purchase Ring of Honor, I would love to see those 5 guys on that roster as well. I think they all have greatness in them.
Yeah. That's absolute truth.
He just needs to change. Yeah, especially Bandito. But I think Jonathan Gresham is progressing. And Gresham is progressing so well. Mark Haskins is one of my favorites. And how did we forget Roosh?
We just did, that's all. We're dumb.
All right. Fair enough.
Or we got sidetracked talking about something else when in the middle of us talking about that.
More than likely, that's usually what happens.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what we'll talk about next week. And that's all we've got for this week. So make sure you stay tuned to the other LLP radio shows. Tomorrow is Sports Entertainment is Dead. No, excuse me. Tomorrow is the Global Revolution. On Wednesday is Sports Entertainment is Dead. On Thursday is MSLP Radio Adventure. On Friday is The Right Side of the Pond. And on Saturday, I believe there's nothing this week. There may have been an Aftershock yesterday, so if there is and you haven't listened to it yet, go back and go listen to that. And that's all. And that's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. Until then, this is the awesome showman Shane saying long days, pleasant nights. And
Jeff is saying goodbye.
G1 Climax 27. Goodbye and good night. Bang.